I mean, let's remember here, we funded. That's great. Let's get some to come from Saudi Arabia and other places, importing their Wahhabi brand of Islam.
The deal with Saudi Arabia, and I couldn't get an answer on specifically how we were monitoring their support, their continued support of the exportation of Wahhabism, Salafism, and the terror that goes along with that fundamentalist view of Islam around the globe. Do you know of any metrics that the department is following to support their claim that they are working on that? How are we gauging that? How are we going to determine whether they're following along with that portion of the agreement?
Well, one of the outcomes of the President's Summit in Riyadh was the creation of the Center to counter extreme Muslim messaging with Saudi Arabia.
Even back then, it was all about oil.
The Balfour Declaration gave British support for the establishment of a Jewish homeland in Palestine, which was part of the Ottoman Empire.
Power games that reached their peak in Paris after the First World War. The victors didn't create order and peace in the Middle East and Anatolia, but instead made false promises.
New borders were drawn, new states were created, which had enormous potential for conflict, and which, if you look from 1918 to the present, keep returning to the political agenda.
The wounds have not healed, but are in fact still open.
And it's my impression that this attitude, this view of the region, is a consequence of this period, of the Sèvres Agreement, of the post-war order after the First World War.
The bloody legacy of Sèvres. The porcelain factory is a symbol of just how fragile the world in the Middle East remains today.
And they moved on a sectarian basis to seize the Islamic lands.
We recognize in you both a leader of the Arabian people and a custodian of those cities most sacred to Islam.
Today flies side by side with the flag of the United States.
The state Wahhabi ideology is taught to Saudi children from an early age. Books made in Saudi Arabia, but exported to the world.
As we've seen, the defining characteristic of Wahhabis is their hatred and backstabbing of the Ummah. Nothing better represents this than the alliance of the Wahhabis with the British in the early 20th century. In 1915, Ibn Saud signed the Treaty of Darin. This treaty made the Wahhabi Najd a British protectorate. This is exactly what happened at the end of the war, including Palestine, which was then given to Jews to establish Israel. And of course, the rest of the Arab lands were divided up into nation states, creating the dysfunctional mess known as the modern Middle East we know today. The depressing situation we have today in Palestine and the Middle East is the result of exactly what the Wahhabis worked for.
It's like one just came out today, which talk about a long history of Saudi involvement in the alleged sponsoring of radical Islamism.
The UK-based Henry Jackson Society released a report in 2017 stating that Saudi Arabia,
since the 1960s, has sponsored a multi-million-dollar effort to export Wahhabi Islam across the Islamic world, including to Muslim communities in the West.
The conundrum for most moderate Muslims is that the two holy cities of Mecca and Medina have been in Wahhabi hands for 90 years. Saudi money has strategically silenced virtually all criticism in the international media.